Tell you what, is the end near, friends? I say that because it's what the nerds say.
The end is only seconds away.
Seconds away.
If it's your time.
It is. That's right. If you guys haven't heard, I think it's important that we bring up the end is nigh for all of us. Is it the second coming? We're not quite sure. But what we do know is there is a clock, and the clock is keeping time.
Thank you all for being here today. It is the determination of the Science and Security Board of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists
Nerds.
that the world has not made sufficient progress on existential risks threatening all of humanity.
Never felt the love of a woman.
We thus move the clock forward. In setting the clock closer to midnight, we send a stark signal. Because the world is already perilously close to the precipice,
Gonna die alone.
any move towards midnight should be taken as an indication of extreme danger and an unmistakable warning.
Wants a love bot.
Every second of delay in reversing course increases the probability of global disaster.
Uh-oh, here it comes. Tell us.
It is now
I'm waiting.
89 seconds to midnight.
Oh, good goodness.
This is the closest the world has ever been to midnight.
Okay, I've got a very serious, very important question.
Yes.
Do we have to rename the Iron Maiden song 2 Minutes to Midnight now?
I was thinking about that, man. I'm telling you right now.
It doesn't have the same zip to it.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
89 seconds to midnight.
89 seconds to midnight. And I got a vest on. I feel very much, and with my beard, I look a little bit like Rob. Rob Halford, lead singer of Judas Priest. It's over. I mean, I'm going to miss all of you. It was cool. It's cool while it lasted. It was short. I mean, but what are you going to do? We're all going, so it's not
Well, I'm just going to go get me a bottle of Black Label and a carton of Marlboro Reds.
Is that how you're going out?
I'm going to finish as many as I can in a minute and a half.
You know what's great about
You
this?
smoke more than one at a time?
Yeah.
Do you remember Y2K? Like that was it. Like the world was going to come to an end.
Yes.
It was over.
Planes were going to fall from the sky.
It was over, guys. I mean, this is it. I mean, cats and dogs living together. There was nothing we were going to do to stop it. You were never going to be able to get into your ATM ever again. It was just never going to happen.
No.
That was it. I was like, I can never get into my ATM. Remember that whole thing? It's like, guys, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then, like, by the next day, we're like, what was that? So my question is, with the Doomsday, folks, let's just say, for the sake of argument, we get there. What exactly does that mean? Because I feel like even at 89 seconds, somebody could launch a nuke, and then it's mutual, assured destruction.
Yeah.
So it could be 20 minutes, and somebody could have launched the nuke. I'm curious. And, of course, there's lots of things that we need to do. Not all of it's about nukes, though.
This clock now stands at only 89 seconds to midnight. For the last 78 years, the Doomsday Clock has measured how close we are to catastrophe. The reason why we are now the closest to midnight we have ever been is our inability to act collectively.
Okay.
The last few years have seen a failure of global diplomacy and international rules in favor of unilateral actions and the belief that force and coercion should prevail. But the key to overcoming existential threats lies in united collective action.
No, thank you. There you go.
Kumbaya.
No thank you on that baloney. And, of course, a little music for you here. I saw him in an interview yesterday. It was fantastic. He was wearing sunglasses in his own house with a giant picture of himself behind himself.
He was like, I got to cut this interview short. I got to rewrite some lyrics.
I got a little bit of me behind me. Just letting you guys know that.
Bruce had a portrait of himself.
I'm always fascinated by that. Like, people who have portraits. No offense, I love Trump. You know, somewhere in there's a giant portrait of him.
Dude.
I think Bruce's is fan art. I think it was done by a fan.
Oh, okay.
No, this one seemed like he did this. Like, I want this painted for me. It did. So we wouldn't talk about the end of the world without talking about the thing that matters absolutely the most about the end of the world: climate change.
2024 was the hottest year on record. Our leaders must think beyond short-term interests to secure energy transition. We need a pandemic accord. We need international norms for the use of artificial intelligence, especially for the military. And we need to keep the new nuclear arms race under control with international treaties. The hands of this clock can be turned back, and we, the elders, urge all leaders to unite and tackle the threats confronting us. Cada segundo cuenta. Every second counts.
Just out of curiosity, what the hell's an elder? That seemed rather weird, right? We the Elders.
It was a huge flop album by Kiss.
Yeah, it was. But I'm just... really. It might have been, but was it that floppy, right? The world's coming to an end floppy? Might have been. That's how bad
Their
that was.
world sure did when that album came out.
That is, and I laugh at stuff like this, but understand what it's about. It's about, let's have this great collectivism. America, you guys need to give in more. Like, if you've never, I've read the Paris Climate Accords. For those of you guys who don't know, we promised the world, and the world promised us nothing. So, like, China promised that they would start reducing, not start now, like by 2030, they'd start reducing. Oh, India said, hey, we will, once we get to the top of whatever we're doing as far as our output, then we'll start reducing, but we don't know when that's going to be.
Yeah.
And we're like, we'll do anything you guys ask because we think it's going to be great. And it wasn't. It's ridiculous. And a strong America. And here's the thing. We take care of ourselves, first and foremost, number one. Because a strong America makes everybody else better. It's that simple. Strong America makes everybody else safer. A strong America is incredible. We care about ourselves first. When we take care of ourselves first, everything else comes from there. And we take care of our friends. We have a few allies. Because everybody needs a few good allies, pals, right? Everybody's got a few friends. And like, that guy's a friend. Then you got that friend. 2 o'clock in the morning, you make a phone call. Dude, bring your car, bring a sheet, bring a shovel. Don't ask me what happened. And your buddy's like, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Like, everybody needs one of those friends. And then you've got your, kind of hanger out friends that you help, allies once in a while, but you don't really want to know them that well. That's the world we live in. And the stronger we are, the better it is for everybody. This whole world's coming to an end crap, it's boring. Let me tell you when the world comes to an end. When the earth decides, we don't want you anymore. We're done. I'm going to shake you guys off and move on. That's when it's over. Not because it's, according to record, horrible record keeping, by the way, going back who knows how long, 1 degree cooler, hotter, 1.7 degrees, 1.3. It's too late. It's 12 years. What do you think's going to happen in 12 years? When I was a kid growing up, we worried about the giant ice age. Then we had the ozone layer because everybody was using Aquanet in their hair. Remember that?
Including the guys.
Including the guys, because it was the 80s. It was big hair time. I mean, it was all on, man. So the world's not coming to an end. The world's in a great place. There are issues. There's never been a better time in human history than right this second. The only thing I kind of agree with is, as much as I love AI, we do have to take a little look at it. Just throwing it out there. Throwing it out there. A lot of stuff to get to today. And yes, we are going to talk about the man currently being grilled, Robert Kennedy Jr.
The receipts show that Mr. Kennedy has embraced conspiracy theories, quacks, charlatans, especially when it comes to the safety and efficacy of vaccines.
There's no doubt he's had a say, and he's getting grilled, and he should be. I'm fine with that. He is a different character. He is a character that is mostly the opposite of everything MAGA is. But because he is a bit of a renegade, and he kind of always has been, because he is a person that's willing to change when he sees something that he says, hey, you know what? The prevailing wisdom is that this is the way that people feel, and he's willing to move there. I have zero problems with some of the stuff he said. Now, am I a vaccine skeptic? No. Do I think we abuse vaccines and we push it on kids at certain times? Absolutely. But do I recognize that the bigger thing that he's talking about here, the thing that should matter more than anything else, because he's flipped and flopped on certain vaccines, But the thing that has mattered more than anything else is he's talking about how fat we are as a nation, how much diabetes we have. Right? There's type 2 diabetes. Most of us are like type 4. Like they've had to add diabetes. It's like, wow, you're made of sugar.
There ain't enough insulin in the world to save you, boy.
What's wrong with him? We're at the point now. It's like, I'm in the future. What are we going to have? We're going to have a bunch of people rolling around on wheelchairs with no legs because of diabetes.
Or they're just rolling around because they're too fat to fit in a wheelchair.
Fatty caps. And we're going to talk about that. Did you see that lady that got denied the Lyft ride?
Oh, yeah, the rapper.
Oh, my God. It is incredible. It is incredible. The Lyft guy's like, no. He's like, you're going to ruin my tires.
The shocks are going to go out.
He said that. He goes, you're going to ruin my tires. My tires can't handle you. But we're going to talk about that. Like, there's a perfect example of why, you know what, maybe less refined foods, maybe a little bit more working out would be good. Maybe he's on to some stuff with the crap we put in our foods. I saw an article the other day. Maybe refined foods, refined sugar, and all this stuff processed may be good for you. Well, I thought it was bad for me. Well, it may be good for you, some of it. We're all over the place with that. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about, including, yes, Trump freaking everybody out by executive order. He should do that one day. Just scare the Democrats and the media, Trump, and just send it out as executive order. Talk about that. Talk about Bluey. If you don't know who Bluey is, biggest show in the world by far. And parents, especially young parents, are parenting off a cartoon. Quite frankly, I like it. It's a great show. It lives in my house a lot. Plus, as I told you, Chris and everybody out there, I'm going to tell you why you don't want to steal the Mona Lisa. You don't. You think it's a good idea, but then you're like, this may not go the way I think. Talk about that, bunch of other stuff. If you're missing the show, we say grab the podcast. And, of course, we also say...
Shame, shame, shame. You should have known better.
Raycon, best earbuds around. Wear my Raycons all of the time. Tons of colors to choose from. Right now, when you go to buyraycon.com/Chad, you're going to save 15% on the everyday earbuds and everything on their website, which is awesome. They got gaming headphones. They got great stuff for your house. They've got so many different things. The everyday earbuds, active noise cancellation, 8 hours of talk time, 32 hours of battery life, a sound quality second to none. You've got several different modes. You can put it in awareness mode, isolation mode. So if you just really want to focus on something and only hear that, it's incredible. Fast charging and multi-connectivity, which is amazing. And they can take a beating. If you're looking for great sound quality at a price that won't break the bank with some noise cancellation, which you're never going to get anywhere close to, unless you go with Raycons. You go to buyraycon.com/Chad today. Not only that, 30-day happiness guarantee. 28 days, you're not happy, send it back. They give you a brand new pair, no questions asked, or your money back. It's that simple. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad. Buyraycon.com/Chad.
All right, Coffee County drivers still got that bridge work blocking the right lane, 24 westbound at Beech Grove. That's exit 97. We've had changes to the illegal immigration bill in the Tennessee special legislative session, and President Trump has pulled that memo pausing federal funding. We'll tell you about it at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I've known Bobby my whole life. We grew up together. It's no surprise that he keeps birds of prey as pets, because Bobby himself is a predator. Unlike Bobby, I try not to speak for my father. But I am certain that he and my Uncle Bobby, who gave their lives in public service to our country, and my Uncle Teddy, who devoted his long Senate career to the cause of improving health care, would be disgusted.
Settle down. And by the way, Uncle Teddy should learn to drive better. That is Caroline Kennedy. So they're cousins. I didn't get the predator thing. Well, I'm not quite sure. There's no, this is why he keeps birds of prey. I'm like, what? And then she goes off on like, she got everybody hooked. He got everybody hooked on hard drugs. And it's just crazy. Like, I was waiting for her to go, he was Sirhan. Didn't like his dad. He was the second gunman on the grassy knoll. Like, the insanity of going after him. Okay, you don't like him. Great. He's my cousin. I love him, but he's a bit different. I get Robert Kennedy Jr. is a bit different. But disruptors are. They are. And they're not always going to knock it out the park. Elon Musk, disruptor. Very much a different character. Javier Milei, very much a different character. And a lot of people out there love Javier Milei. A lot of MAGA loves Javier Milei. Javier Milei, by the way, is a libertarian through and through. He's fine with legalized drug, legalized sex work. He doesn't care what gender you pick. He just wants government out of your life, which we can all go, I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, he's borderline anarchist.
He is, very much so. Very much so. He is borderline, like, he's right there where it's like, if we got rid of all the government, maybe we can just kind of govern ourselves and be our own cops. But he is, like a lot of people, though, a disruptor in certain times are what's needed. And when it comes to health, yes, we have to have questions about vaccines. And I think all of us are okay having questions about vaccines. That being said, has he raised some alarms that are definitely worth talking about? 100%. We talked about it. One of the first shows I did here, Belle and I talked about when we were kids, by the time we were 18, we may have had like 8 or 10 shots. Now you're in the God knows what, teens, 30s, it's insane. And yes, we're finding new things when it comes to vaccines that we can protect ourselves from, but these are all fair questions to ask. And then on the other side of it, you start talking about how we eat. And it's bad. And he was right. I mean, he's been screaming about these red dye 3 and 40 and all this stuff forever. And they just got rid of it. We talked about it 2 weeks ago, how they got rid of it. Now next is red dye 40. So this guy's kind of been ahead in a lot of this stuff. And if you've not seen him without his shirt for 70-something, I'll be honest with you, dude's pretty yoked. Because I'm surprised he showed up. I would have just shown up in a tie. Like, that's what I would have done if I would have showed up in a tie and say, this is what health looks like, baby. That's a 6-pack, Elizabeth Warren. Oh, my Lord. But conspiracies, yes, he's embraced some stuff. And I like how they asked him, did you really think that Lyme disease was a conspiracy? He's like, probably. He just owned it. Then there's nowhere to go. Well, why did you think that? I don't know, because that sounds like something we do. Does anybody remember the Tuskegee thing? You remember? Well, it's not like we haven't tried certain things in the past. So, but not everything's a conspiracy. That's one thing I always have to remind everybody. We live in a world now, and part of that is because of health and human services, especially because of COVID, because of the fact that every time you turn around, they would tell you one thing, then 10 minutes later, they would juxtapose their position, then it would be on the website, then off the website, then they would say they didn't do that, then they lost a ton of credibility, and that's part of the problem. Why we don't trust. And it's hard, especially when you're dealing with your body more than anything else, man, when you're dealing with your body, you want that trust. You want to know, can I believe what you're telling me? Can I? Can I believe what I'm putting in me is good? Especially when you're putting it in your kid. It's one thing, like, I think most of us look around and go, yeah, you know what? If I took the shot, it was on me. If I did something, that's on me. But it's your kid. It's a totally different thing. And like I said, I'm not pro measles. I know some people are. Not me. Never had the measles, and I don't want to get them. We should just have some common sense. And somewhere along the line, I wish somebody would just say, where's the common sense in any of this? Why can't we question stuff without being called a conspiracy theorist? We'll see. And sometimes conspiracy theory people, I love you, but sometimes, little Occam's razor, the straight line, the easiest answer is the answer. And sometimes you just got to go with that. All right, coming up, Trump changed courses already. Talk a little bit about that, but more about the freak out than anything else. And the Mona Lisa, I want to talk about that because, like I said, a lot of you have been contacting me. How do I steal the Mona Lisa? You don't want to, and I'm going to tell you why. Coming up. It's Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. And here in Nashville, an illegal immigration bill has been amended to make it a crime if any elected official votes to create a sanctuary city. The biennial assessment suggests that the gap between higher performing students and those with lower reading scores is widening. Jim Ryan says it shows 40% of fourth graders and 33% of eighth graders are reading below the test's basic level.
A major source of concern drawn from the National Assessment of Educational Progress is absenteeism. 12% of eighth graders reported missing at least 5 days of school per month, which is lower than it was in 2022, but higher than in 2019.
Now, here in Tennessee, the Professional Educators of Tennessee says this year's results reveal that Tennessee's fourth and eighth graders have shown improvement, exceeding national averages in reading and math. In our nation's capital, President Trump and the White House Office of Management and Budget pulling that memo ordering a temporary pause on federal funding. No reason given. Comes after top officials defended the funding freeze yesterday, then a D.C. judge temporarily blocked it. Lawyers for President Trump have filed an appeal of his conviction on 34 felony counts for falsifying business records, a so-called hush money case there in New York. And President Trump's nominee to lead the Department of Health and Human Services facing opposition from Democrats at the first of two confirmation hearings this week. This is Stephen Portnoy reporting.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. repeatedly insisted he's not against vaccines.
I support the measles vaccine. I support the polio vaccine.
But the Finance Committee's Democrats, led by Oregon's Ron Wyden, were not convinced.
Anybody who believes that ought to look at the measles book you wrote saying parents have been misled into believing that measles is a deadly disease. That's not true.
The hearing featured repeated interruptions from protesters, but the room was also filled with several Kennedy supporters.
That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Retirement Ready Toolkit. Beacon has one for you. Right now, presidential elections, they've happened. We've had some chaos in the markets, some uncertainty. Don't let that be you. Beacon, you can sit down with them locally and go over where you are with your retirement. And a lot of people out there are worried about that. You deserve to have confidence knowing that no matter what's going on in the economy, you have a plan that helps keep your financial goals in line with your life's priorities, which is very important. So if you're in retirement, maybe you're nearing retirement, or you're just starting to really kind of head towards that angle where you're starting to really think about it, Beacon Capital has a free retirement ready toolkit just for you. This is what you're going to get. Money enough for life book, a retirement planning checklist, and a maximizing your retirement income white paper. This costs you nothing. There's no obligation, and there's no pressure with Beacon. Call them today to find out more. 615-488-9303. You're going to get your free retirement ready toolkit. That's 615-488-9303. Or check them out online at askbeaconnow.com. Yesterday, Trump did what Trump does. He was evil, signed paper. He's a dictator. Can't stop dictators. He froze federal payments, and then he unfroze them. First of all, a judge came in already within hours and goes, you can't do this. I need to learn more, but I'm going to stop you from doing this until Monday when we can have a hearing and go over stuff. And he doesn't, first of all, you guys recognize he's not a king. And we have 3 co-equal branches of government. Now, I look at Congress and I say, Congress, you guys have allowed way too much of your power to be essentially, well, you've handed it over. They didn't take it. You've handed it over. You've given it over to agencies. You've allowed the Supreme Court to make a lot of decisions. And you've let the executive branch lead you, as well as parts of the media and the insanity that is, because you don't want to make a decision about stuff. So the power of the purse, that's Congress. It's not the executive, and it is not, obviously, SCOTUS. Those are the co-equal branches. You get the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. They are supposed to handle the purse. So this was supposed to be their call if there was going to be a call. And it wasn't constitutional. He would have lost this. But it wasn't about that. It was about bringing, how should we say this, an awareness to the insanity that's out there and the amount of spending that we have. Because it's insane. It is. And listening to people yesterday and today lose their mind over this. And part of that was the fact that it wasn't explained well. Even the powers that be who thought they knew didn't know all the answers. And if you're going to do something like this, and it was only going to be temporary anyways, you should at least have some of the answers to this. But the fear, the chaos, the craziness.
Well, sort of
really
day 9 of the Trump administration put us deeply in the F around and find out, and that's where we are. Listen, it is not unusual. Let's put it in a business sense, right? For a new CEO to take over a company and say, hold on, let's take a look at where we're spending. Let's evaluate. Let me meet with every department head. But this is not a business, right? I get it. That was the argument Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia, made defending the president. And I get it. Maybe that's how Glenn rolled when he ran Carlisle. This is the United States government.
Right. And so with Carlisle, they're business. They're in the private sector. In the private sector, you have responsibilities. Whether you're running a major corporation and you've got board members and you got shareholders and you've got employees, or maybe you just got a small business and it's, your customers and you've got responsibilities. And when you fail to meet those responsibilities, when you fail, there are consequences with that. With government, there is no consequences. There is none. If you have a program that gets $50 gazillion a year, you're always going to get $50 gazillion, even if it sucks. They never question where the money goes. They never question what the results are because they don't even care about the results. And that's the frustrating part. That's the thing that should make us all angry. The excitement of Doge, and I always like to temper that with, there's only so much I think they're going to be able to do, but the excitement of the fact that we can look in there and say, oh my God, I don't think we should spend $5 million finding out if a duck can juggle. Or why does a dog not quack? We don't need to know those things. We don't. We want to see our money spent right. And you know what else we want? Accountability. That's what the left doesn't get. It's about accountability.
Right. And what's really important about the billions and billions of dollars that President Trump is looking to freeze, this money was already approved and allocated by Mike Johnson's Congress, weeks and weeks ago. Right. So what's interesting is Donald Trump, it's not a surprise that he said, we're going to change things. And lots of people in this country feel like the government spends too much money. We got to clean things up. Right. Absolutely. But he's had plenty of time and planning to actually do this in some sort of orderly fashion. And instead, we're getting pure chaos.
Yeah, it wasn't explained well, and it should have been explained better. But the chaos comes from the hair on fire. The running around all the time thinking that every move and the next move is even more dangerous than the move before. And why people don't want accountability. So the way this works is the feds give out money. They decide, okay, this is what everybody applies for, the states, we're going to give you guys money. Then you distribute it to your NGOs and to state projects and whatever. And okay. Once they allocate that money and they say you're getting it, they can't pull that back. So when Trump says, I'm going to hold money, you can't hold anything right now. You can't do any of that. Where it comes tricky for the states and groups coming is the money that's not allocated yet that you may need. That's where that can come in. But the hair on fire world was spectacular. And our good buddy Lonely Scott at CNN.
We are still very early in trying to figure out what it is, but this goes.
I have a few thoughts on this. Number one, I assumed when this all happened, it would get sorted out in court. That's obviously process is underway. Not uncommon. Joe Biden had to have a few things sorted out in court, too. Pretty common thing. Number two, I didn't realize we were but 12 hours from full societal collapse after one government decision. I had no idea, but I appreciate the briefing. Number three, I think the American people are appalled at the amount of money that goes out the door every year, and it seems to be on autopilot, and it seems to be without political oversight. And I do think one of the lessons from the election was, can we get a little bit of political oversight over the unelected bureaucracy? And that is what they are attempting to do. Do I ultimately believe a lot of this is going to be walked back? Yes. Do I think members of Congress are going to draw attention to things that are quite necessary and quite useful? Absolutely. Will it take a few days to iron out? More than likely. But I do think there's a little bit of overreaction on the left today because Donald Trump and his people decided to exercise a little bit of political oversight, which I think the American people want.
Oh, my God. You don't understand, Scott. He was going to do stuff and people weren't going to eat. And then they all broke out there. I got a friend who texted me, and their kid has Down syndrome, and they're not going to get any of the stuff, blah, 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 blah. And then the other person said, well, I got a friend who's Section 8, and they're worried they're going to. It was only A, if it was to ever work, it was going to be temporary. And B, what exactly program are you getting? Are you getting from the state? Are you getting from the federal government? Are you getting it from an NGO? What recourse do we as taxpayers? I mean, if this was a business that was a financial business, the fiduciary responsibility to making sure that your client's money is taken care of. With government, they don't have to worry about that. because there is no repercussions. I always joke about California spent $24 billion over a few years with homeless. If the goal was to make more homeless, man, they still spent too much, but they did that. If it was to eliminate homelessness, well, they're going in the wrong direction. And anybody get fired? No. People get raises? Yes. If you work in government, so let's say Bell and I have the Department of Yacht Rock and Hardcore Hair Band Agency, right? So that's our agency.
Yeah, I'm definitely the secretary of that.
Yeah. So we're awesome. So we're in there, right? And we're doing our thing. And we have $50 billion budget because we would need that because Yacht Rock's awesome, but everybody's got to have a yacht. That makes it a little tougher. So we only spend $32 billion. We got $18 billion left over. What do you think happens next time? They're going to give us $32 billion. They're not going to give us 50.
Your budget cut.
That's exactly it. So you spend past your budget to go, whoo, we got more fans for Yacht Rock than ever before, and we need more yachts. That's what we need. We need more Aquanet for hair, for the heavy metal side of it, and we need more Yacht Rock. Everybody needs a captain's hat, like Captain and Tennille.
And extra mascara for all around.
Yeah. So the frustration of this is there is no accountability. And that's the frustration we should all have. We all talk about, I heard earlier, I don't know how many condoms we're giving to Gaza. I think one is a little too many. You guys probably have other things to think about rather than, having unprotected sex or making bombs with these. But 1 million, 50 million, that's ridiculous. We need to pause some of these things and get a look at a lot of things. First of all, who's benefiting from them? See, that's a big deal in government. And that includes the Republicans because everybody's got donors. You don't walk into the Congress or the Senate without people behind you. And those people are helping you because they may want something. Not saying they will, but they may want something. But we should have an opportunity to look. Is it fraud? Is it waste? Is it a right-wing conspiracy? Is it, are we really not spending as much as we could? I mean, or is it a whole bunch of things? And I think it's a whole bunch of things. Is there fraud? Oh, absolutely. Is there waste? Oh, you betcha. Is some of it, in some cases, probably overblown? Yeah, sure.
Plus, you have to remember that when you hear Democrats decrying spending cuts, they're slashing these. But no, what they're doing is they're limiting the level of increase.
Yes.
They're not cutting anything.
No.
They're simply doing smaller increases.
That's it. Because in many of these things, there's a built-in thing because it's Congress and law, and they have to increase it so much. They're not going to increase it this much. And it's built in. Like, we're going to get this, and you're going to get this. It's like a contract. And as one person just texted, that the historical-based funding, it's the bane of government. It absolutely is. But that's what happens when you have all this money, and people help you get elected. So all of these people in all of these NGOs and all of these places, when you take it back to the state, because you need all this money to fund these things, somebody sitting on a board somewhere is going to help a wife of somebody or a husband with something. It's an awful situation. But we should be able to have a say. And here's the other thing. Let's just say maybe there's a government program doesn't work very well. Cutting it's not the worst thing. Rolling it into a little something else. Let's say we have a government program that can actually show real results. Maybe they should get more money. But we don't do that here. There's no merit base. There's none of that. And we don't even check at this point in time. And that's the frustration that people have. And we should all be frustrated. But the freaking out, the world's coming to an end thing, it's tiring. It's exhausting. We already know the world's coming to an end. Come on, we had the clock guy on earlier. He's telling us the world's coming to an end. What do we have, 89 seconds now? What I heard?
89 seconds to midnight.
Oh, my God.
Why 89? Why not 90?
I don't know. Somebody asked me, why isn't it 90? I'm like, I have no idea. What was it last year? I think it was 91 last year.
I'll have to look it up.
So, and it went up a smidge. I can't remember if it ever went from like a minute 5 to 95 seconds, like where there's a big jump. I don't remember if there ever was. But I know we're still here, so that's always a win. Oh, geez, Chad. We're going to talk a little bit about the Mona Lisa coming up. I think you guys need to learn about the Mona Lisa. We're also, next hour, I want to talk a bit about education because you heard the 1230 Newcastle with Ken. Our education system is broken. There's a perfect example of not getting our money's worth. And it is absolutely broken. And it's getting worse by the year. Yes, sir. What do you got?
It's been adjusted 25 times over the years. And in 1991, in the middle of the Cold War, or towards the end of the Cold War, I should say, the clock was set for 17 minutes from midnight. That's the farthest it's ever been. And then today's adjustment of 89 seconds is the closest it's ever been.
Oh, 14 and a half minute, 15 and a half minute jump. That's pretty big. It's pretty big. So based on that, we don't have a lot of time. And that is from the Doomsday Clock, not the Sunshine Clock, the Doomsday Clock. Mona Lisa, Mona Lisa. I'm going to tell you why you should not try to steal the Mona Lisa. Because I hear a lot of people talk about that, especially you guys text me, go, Chad, should I steal it? No, you shouldn't. A, it's illegal, and it's not good. You're not a criminal. And B, there's a reason for that. We'll talk about that straight ahead. Chad Benson Show. Super Talk 99.7. Bulwark Capital, tomorrow, my buddies over there are going to do a webinar. My buddy Zach Abrams, Chief Investment Officer over there. And the webinar is a preview for 2025, where they think not only the market's going, the economy across the board, and what they can do for your retirement. The beauty of Bulwark is they're an active management company. So it means that they're actively looking on a daily basis of ways to not only protect you, because risk management is number one, but also how to expand your retirement, how to grow. And they get you there because they're not cookie cutter. They get you there because it's based on you, your needs, and wants. So tomorrow, 3:30 Pacific, doesn't cost you anything but a little bit of time. Worst case scenario is you walk away and you go, I learned a little something. Best case scenario is you talk to them a little bit more about what it is that they do. Do this, simple and easy, 30 minutes of your time. 3:30 Pacific tomorrow. Go to knowyourriskradio.com. It's 5:30 here. It's KNOW, yourriskradio.com to sign up today for Bulwark's webinar 2025 retirement preview. KnowYourRiskRadio.com. Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Investments involve risk and are not a guarantee. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Trek 24301.
Audience members, or rather members of the audience, forcibly removed over at the Tennessee Special Legislative Session. I'll tell you about it at 1 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Now the Mona Lisa is getting her own dedicated room and a space for swooning visitors. France's president announced the Italian Renaissance portrait will remain at the Louvre while the Paris landmark undergoes restoration. Those repairs and expansion project expected to take up to a decade. Visitors will also need special tickets to view Leonardo da Vinci's masterpiece.
Masterpiece.
Wait, so you got to buy a ticket to get in the Louvre, and then you have to buy another ticket to see the Mona Lisa?
Yeah.
That's a jip.
That's the way it's working, man.
That's just a jip.
So here's several things. First and foremost, it should have always had its own room. So when I went and saw it way back in the day, you could just wander, and it was right there. Like I said, it was on the wall. There was nothing stopping you because they thought, hey, people aren't crazy. You know, I mean, they had a little guard around it, little like a pole with the velvet rope, but it wasn't anything nuts, and there wasn't any glass around it, and it was smaller than you think.
What flavor soup was on it that day?
None, because they hadn't gone crazy yet.
Oh, okay.
That was coming later. Mona Lisa should always have its own room. Like, if you go to the Basketball Hall of Fame, Michael Jordan, right, probably should have his own room. Kobe, his own room, kind of thing. Same thing with hockey, right? Like Gretzky needs his own wing. He doesn't need to be. Like, there's a bunch of other great artists inside of the Louvre, and you go look, but certain things need its own thing. The second thing is, you got to be able to protect it. You have to be able to protect it. Because some clown who thinks that, another 1/10 of 1 degree is going to destroy the world tries to throw soup or something on it. You need that. And I honestly continue to say this. You just maybe shoot one of them in the leg and just thin the herd, send a message. They are sending messages, by the way, in Britain and in France, that if you do certain things towards some of this stuff, you're going to go to jail, which I think is good. Now, why wouldn't you want to steal it? Great question. First, the heat that would come on you is too much. Just way too much. Secondly, who are you going to sell it to? Because part of having the Mona Lisa is showing everybody you got the Mona Lisa.
Did you ever see the remake of the Thomas Crown Affair?
Yeah.
He stole that painting, and then the only place he could put it was in the hidden spot in his office because nobody could know he had it.
That's it. That's exactly it. You want to show the world you have the Mona Lisa. And you don't want to bring people over and think that they're not going to talk because human beings innately can't keep their freaking mouth shut.
And the bigger the deal, the more the talk.
That's right. They're going to go out and start yapping. Dude, I was at so-and-so's house the other day. You'll never believe this. He has the Mona Lisa, the real Mona Lisa. No way. That's going to get back. And next thing you know, boom. So the thought is just let it stay there. All right? Just let it stay there. I know you want to steal it, but you could never get rid of it. And you could never get rid of it for what it's worth. It's the other side of it. I mean,
well, isn't it legitimately priceless?
It is. I know Italy asked for it back, not back, but they asked to borrow it before they move into this room because they're hosting the Winter Games and they would like to have it there in Milan because they think it would help them. And the French are like, no, you cannot have the painting. Ha! Education. We're not education nation. I'll tell you that right now. I'll talk about it. By the way, not only are the kids' scores down, when you hear how adults read, it's scary. It is so scary. Talk about that, some immigration stuff. It's Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7.
All right, drivers, that's an 18-minute delay if you're eastbound 24 and you get to Smyrna. Got some milling and paving blocking the right 2 lanes at Sam Ridley Parkway. Also in Coffee County, bridge work blocking the right lane 24 westbound at Beech Grove. That's exit 97. Full forecast in 5 minutes. Right now in Tennessee, the special legislative session rolls on and an illegal immigration bill has been amended that would make it a crime for any elected official who votes to create a sanctuary city. Then News Channel 5 reports some audience members of the House committee were forcibly removed during the discussion. because they were snapping their fingers and getting vocal, which is against Education Committee rules. And in our nation's capital,
the White House has rescinded its sweeping order that would freeze potentially trillions of dollars in federal assistance, loans, and grants. That's according to a memo obtained by ABC News, signed by the acting White House budget director. The order caused chaos and confusion in Washington and across the country, with lawmakers, federal officials, and state and local governments raising concerns about what the pause would mean for health care, disaster aid, and law enforcement. A federal judge in Washington had issued a stay of the policy through next Monday.
As Karen Travers reporting. More executive orders expected today. President Trump expected to sign an order aimed at combating anti-Semitism on college campuses and in communities across the nation, asking for authorities to look at all criminal and civil penalties. And the president signing an executive order to expand what the White House calls educational freedom and allow for more school choice options. 5 years after COVID-19 came crashing in, the effect of the pandemic still being felt in academic test scores. Jim Ryan says that's the finding of a biennial study considering the nation's report card.
Reading scores among most 4th and 8th graders are lower than they were 4 years ago. But if the National Assessment of Educational Progress contains any bright spots, it's in improving math scores in the nation's biggest cities. Results also stood out in Louisiana, where reading scores improved, and Alabama, whose 4th graders are doing better in math.
Now here in Tennessee, the professional educators of Tennessee says this year's results reveal that Tennessee's 4th and 8th graders have shown improvement, exceeding national averages in reading and math. Costco strike looms. 18,000 Teamster workers set to go on strike Friday unless the company agrees to a new contract. A Teamsters spokesperson telling Fox News Digital it would be great if Costco actually cared about its employees like it claims to by keeping its DEI policies. 18,000 store employees set to head to the picket lines at Costco on Friday. And Kohl's is cutting its corporate workforce by 10% to increase profits. Fox Business reports closures of open positions will account for more than half of the total reduction, and it will be shuttering underperforming stores in 15 states by April. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Man, I'm looking at these scores nationwide, and it's a mess. Our education system is a disaster. I know we're trying to do something here, and the bill's there, it's passed, and we're going to do all these great things. I'm curious to see how it goes. I've got kids. We're deciding if we're going to put them in school next year or continue to keep them homeschooled. The older one, I think, is going to go to school because she wants a life.
Have what you've seen so far of our schools made you want to put them in quicker, or are you more reticent?
No, I think we're fine. I don't have a. This is the way I like to look at it. I want to give the kids a chance. We've looked at a couple schools, and we're the older one. We're going to kind of. She wanted to do because she's 14. She wants to have friends and stuff. And, we've lived the last several years in the Valley of the Dirt People in Arizona where, she had a very small group of friends far away. Her best friend's my son or her stepbrother. But this is where, it's as much about her getting out. The education is good too, but we focus a lot on that. So as far as Charlie goes, I've done it almost as a European way. I've kind of let her do her own thing. We didn't put her in, in kindergarten until a little bit later last year. And, she wanted to read, so we started to teach her. That was all on her own. And, you can get education a lot of different ways. But now that we're thinking about it, we've done our homework because I did, you do worry because, this is in Massachusetts. My son's school down in San Diego, I got to be honest, his last two schools were ridiculous. They were amazing. He went to a STEM school that was so amazing.
I'm sorry, what's STEM mean?
That's the science. So that's like it focuses on science and technical engineering, mathematics.
Oh, gotcha.
So okay. It's like it was when COVID hit, within a week they had built an app, an online portal. He never missed a beat. My little brothers go to school in Orange County, and boy, was that a nightmare. And then my other little brother went to a private school in Orange County. They never had a day where they took off. They just kept going. They had a COVID dog, which was interesting. They had a German Shepherd, Belgian Malinois. They brought it in. He sniffed for COVID. So everybody walked in, it would sniff everybody, and apparently you could tell, where COVID was. They had no teachers were out sick ever. It was incredible. So it really depends. You've got to find what's right for you and your kids. But when it comes to public education, you wonder why people are frustrated. Look no further than our report card today that's come out, which basically says, duh.
The biennial assessment suggests that the gap between higher-performing students and those with lower reading scores is widening. 40% of fourth graders and 33% of eighth graders are reading below the test basic level.
It's a call to action as parents and families to hold our districts and our school systems accountable.
Carrie Rodriguez of the National Parents Union wants caregivers to take a more active role in their kids' education.
Well, you should take an active role in your kids' education. Why? Do we have to say that?
Why is that so shocking to hear?
Oh, where's Tiger Mom? You don't want to make your kid hate you, right? Or you got to practice violin for 9 hours. Like that, you can't have any sleepovers. But you want to be active in your kids' education. And I tell my kids this. Education's important. There's a lot of ways to get knowledge. And no doubt about that. But I know what my son's doing. I go and I check it out. Thank God they didn't have that when I was a kid, where they can go on every single day and see how your grades are. Because that would have been a nightmare.
Oh, that would have been the ruin of me.
Oh, totally. I would have been in so much trouble. I would have actually had
you know what?
Gone.
That was almost like an epiphany moment just then that I'd never appreciated how good I had it back then.
Yeah. I was like, I got to get home before my progress report gets there so my aunt could sign it for me.
Yep.
But I knew how to read. I knew the basic of mathematics. And yes, is there some crap being taught at schools? Absolutely. Do we need to revamp schools across the board? 100%. Does Tennessee have something here? We're going to find out. I'm digging into it, and I don't want to jump to, I'm not one of these guys, I'm all about school choice. Yeah, I like school choice. I think we should have it. But we also have to understanding, how are we going to pay for it? Who's going to take advantage of it? 65% of people in private schools are going to take advantage of it. There's nothing wrong with that. You're paying taxes. You're sending your kid to private school. You should be able to take advantage of this. But you want it to go to people who are in schools that are underserved. Absolutely. You do. But I can almost guarantee you, if your parent wants you to get this and is pushing for this, they're thinking about how they can improve your education. They care about your education. The fact that you've got somebody going, well, let's hope that you caregivers can take more of a good approach towards taking care of their kids. That's insane. And why do you say caregiver? It should be mom and dad. It should be mom and dad, right? But we have to say caregiver. Birth giver. Oh, my Lord. So scores were down across the board. Math and reading. And the reading thing is scary when you find out what adults read.
A major source of concern drawn from the National Assessment of Educational Progress is absenteeism. 12% of 8th graders reported missing at least 5 days of school per month, which is lower than it was in 2022, but higher than in 2019.
What? So I'm reading, because I've consumed so much of this crap, like who's ranked where. West Virginia, Oregon, Oklahoma rank low, between 206, 207 points. Massachusetts is up high. And let me tell you where a lot of times it's up high. Yes, the schools are funded pretty well, but very monolithic. What? Schools that teacher doesn't have 9 different kids speaking 9 different languages. The class sizes are smaller. That helps. It does. It helps big time. But some places are struggling in one area, not struggling too bad in the other area, but we're talking about math and reading. Now, math is important, not as important as, by the way, kids listening, close your ears, not as important as they're going to make it out to be, but you should have a basic understanding. And we have none of that. But reading is frightening when I look at this, and then they start talking about, this is Newsweek, how bad adults read, which is even more terrifying. Because I'm like, there's no way. So 21% of adults in the U.S. were found to be illiterate. That's huge. Get ready for this. 54% had literacy below a 6th grade level. That is scary. That is so scary, the fact that we have that bad of, not just, because that says so much. I couldn't even imagine, like, reading to me, and let me tell you, I was not a great student. I'm fairly smart, let's put it that way. So, tested really well in a few areas of things, but I didn't care about school. It was boring. That was always boring to me. I had to either be challenged or I was going to fall asleep and be boring. And then I decided to get out early, to take my tests and stuff, get out early. And then that's when I went to Europe because I just, But reading was always something my mother pushed. Reading. You can get the knowledge. You can get so many things from reading. And it's also one of those things where if you can't read, think about all the things. Like, I'm getting a bunch of texts from you guys right now. Think about the people who, if you couldn't text. I mean, yes, you can do the talk to, but come on. Being able to read what I send back, if you struggle with that, it's a lonely world. And I hope that this moves the needle a little bit, and we're doing a little bit better here in Tennessee, but we're not doing great. We're fair to middling at best. And that's at best. But there's some serious issues in our education system across the board. And parents, you need to pay attention. You recognize that. You guys listening, you recognize that. But on top of that, we need to start thinking to ourselves, how do we craft an education that works for everyone? No, that works for certain people in certain ways. We push kids towards passing tests. We're not educating them. We push kids to all go to college. You don't need to all go to college. Is it a scam? In some areas it is. You mean I spent $200,000 in my interpretive dance? Is it going to get me the thing I've dreamed of? No, it's not. Unless your goal was to be an interpretive dancer, which I can do. Belle and I practice every day. We have synchronized interpretive dancing.
I'm excited about us moving it to the swimming pool.
That's going to be so good. So good. Bell's not a strong swimmer, but that's okay because we've got. Remember that on Saturday Night Live?
Float with the best of them.
Remember Saturday Night Live? He's not a strong swimmer.
Marty Short.
And Harry Shearer.
That was great.
Look at you. I know you. I know you. That's it. You're doing it. Oh, I'm not a strong swimmer.
I'm not a strong swimmer.
Some of the places, though, that have showed improvement, and maybe you guys are places where they've gone back to phonics, teaching the old school way, as opposed to whatever new thing. I didn't know, like math. That's a perfect example. Like, what was wrong with old math? Well, there wasn't a story because why? They're trying to teach you to be a thinker. But I don't need a giant story before 2 + 2 for my kid. And that's what they give you. They give you all this wacky stuff. We need a rethink of education across the board. And parents are, the truth is education starts at home. And I'm hoping the bill that the bill and the new way that we're going to try stuff here with choice is good. Coming from Arizona, it really wasn't as good as people thought it was going to be. The only people who took advantage of it were people who already had kids in private school. On top of that, and we've got a limit because I think they've learned from some of the other places that have had this, that you've got to limit to a certain level. Otherwise, it will bankrupt your state in some ways. You spend all this money. But I look around, I'm like, I'm excited because I want my kids to have to go to school, and I want them to go. I mean, great if this is a great private school. Yeah, I think about it, especially if I didn't like the public schools around. But I would love the fact that there's public schools around that are good, and there are some that are good, and there are some that are awful. We need to recognize that. And it's this, as we were talking earlier about the waste in government, why some schools stay open, and we don't give kids a chance to move even throughout the public areas in an easier way, is also beside me. It drives me crazy. And as somebody texted earlier, do I think that this is going to move the needle for our testing scores? The choice? Maybe, maybe not. You don't know until you implement it, and you don't know what it's going to look like until you implement it. Because this thing could turn out to be amazing. It could become the model of the country. It could become a disaster. It could be something that everybody got excited about and very few people take advantage of. Because that also happens. So we're going to see. But I want results like everybody else does. And I think we need to have accountability, which we don't often get in a lot of things, especially when government's involved. But we cannot have a group of people that can barely read, that can barely write, that can barely do math, and then unleash them on the world. I mean, you got kids now going to college who have to start like almost at the bottom. It might as well be 13th grade because they don't get what's going on and they can't keep up. And that's not like once in a great while. That's crazy that we have that. Coming up, take a quick look at what's going on with RFK Jr., Health and Human Secretary. He's getting grilled today by a bunch of people who are making statements, and he's evil and bad. We'll talk a little bit about that. Trump signing ceremony for Lincoln Riley Act going on now. We'll probably talk a little bit about that. A bunch of other stuff to get to at this hour. It is Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. Prize Picks. Download the app, Daily Fantasy, win money up to $1,000. Now, here's the great thing. Use my code CHAD. So you download the app, use code CHAD. You play your first lineup. That's what they call it. So it's $5. They're going to give you $50 instantly. So how does it work? It's not picking teams, it's picking players. So you are picking a situation where you think somebody's going to go above something or below it. This past weekend, I won pretty nicely, by the way, when it came to the football games. I thought that Patrick Mahomes was going to rush for more than 38.5 yards. I was right. I thought that Josh Allen was going to throw for more than 1.5 touchdowns. I was right. It's that simple. They've got daily bonuses. They've got all kinds of promotions, but $50 bonus immediately when you play your first $5 lineup. This is what you do. You go, you download the app. Playoffs are here. Still great chances every day to play. Once you download the app, you play your first $5. They're going to give you $50 immediately. But make sure you use my promo code Chad. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Drivers, we still have big problems due to construction, especially if you're 24 westbound in Coffee County. Bridge work has the right lane blocked there at Beech Grove. That has traffic backed up all the way to Manchester. And in Smyrna, milling and paving, blocking the right 2 lanes, 24 eastbound past Sam Ridley Parkway. And after 3 interest rate cuts in a row, today the Federal Reserve decided to hold steady. We'll tell you what it means coming up at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Guys, the numbers are in. Nielsen has unveiled the most streamed shows of last year. Let's go ahead and count down the top 5. We'll start with NCIS, the classic crime drama, has a full 17 seasons available to stream, accounting for 35 billion minutes watched last year. Let's switch gears and go to the 4th place. With the animated Bob's Burgers.
Yes.
Yeah. That was number 4, followed by another cartoon classic, Family Guy.
I can get
Number
that.
3, that makes perfect sense. Next, you know him, you love him. The doctors from Grey's Anatomy snagged the 2nd spot. That one premiered back in 2005 and was streamed for over 47 billion minutes. But what is the number 1 show of all of last year? Maybe you're thinking Game of Thrones or Sopranos or something. You're onto something, Craig. It's our Blue Buddy from Down Under.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, the most streamed show of 2024 was Bluey, crushing the competition. 55 billion streamed minutes.
55 billion with a B.
Little blue healer, right?
She's a little blue healer.
Oh, she's a little blue
Yeah, so if you don't know who Bluey is, first of all, when I walk in my house almost every single day, I walk into this. Dan! Dan! Bingo! Bluey's awesome. I love Bluey. So Bluey's it's an Australian cartoon, and it's about, it's about a nuclear family. It's dad his name is Bandit, mom's Chili, Bingo's the little sister, and Bluey is Blue. She's an Australian healer. And it has a lot of life. There's a lot of sarcasm in it. Dad is a lot of, it's hilarious. And it's about a lot of real things, especially like, sibling rivalry and their cousin, right? Muffin, who's got ADHD and is all over the place. And it's they have a deaf character and, that they brought on. And you ask questions and it doesn't make it, people are like, is it woke? It's not. It's not woke. It's not. It's none of the stuff that we get in a lot of our things here. And that's what's great. And the other thing is, it also deals with stuff like I was telling Belle, I'll go home and I'll go to do something. I'll sit down with Charlie, and she's got it on. And the next thing you know, I'm 3 or 4 cartoons in, and I'm like, man, it's funny. And several of you have chimed in, sending me Bluey stickers and stuff. Look what's on my mug and all, because it's refreshing to have that. And I try to explain to my kids, look, when we were growing up, we had cartoons that wanted to kill each other. Things have changed.
And we were always looking for ghosts for some reason.
That's right. We had a bunch of kids who smoked weed with a dog inside of a van, and a guy that was kind of odd with 2 hot chicks who would drive around and they would solve mysteries. Never really had a job, though. Never really got paid. Of course, maybe they're dealing. I don't know.
But they made sure they had those Scooby snacks.
They did. No, Scooby. That stuff. But Bluey is helping parents, like especially young parents who are watching it, and they're getting stuff out on how they actually tackle certain things. And they're not woke, and they talk about all kinds of stuff. And it's interesting that, and we don't have all the cartoons yet because they're a little bit ahead of us. And I was reading the guy who plays Bandit, who's in a band called Custard, like a rock band. He said, I went in to do a couple lines and never once thought I was going to say. He didn't even change his voice, just did his voice. Now he goes, that's all anybody knows me for. I've got, platinum albums, I sell out tour, and nobody cares about that. All anybody cares about is you're Bandit from Bluey. But it's a great cartoon, and it's fun to watch, and it shows. And one of the reasons it's so big is because people can, watch it with their kids, and they'll get a little something out of it as well. But there's a certain sense of it's a real family, and that's what people kind of like about it. It deals with real issues, including like the loss of a baby before it came, like miscarriage and stuff like that, without getting overly crazy, but just touches on it enough because kids are curious about stuff. But they don't make whatever issue they're talking about, and rarely is issues, once in a while it is, all about the issue is the only thing that matters, which is we see, right? If we had Bluey, everybody'd be gay, right? They'd all be like, one would be a cat one day, the other one would be this, and it would, no. They just deal with stuff. And they talk about, inclusivity based in the real world. Like I always say in Modern Family, the greatest way that you look at what like a show is, they have 2 gay characters in it. They're just 2 people that are in the show. It's not about them being gay. And it's a funny show as well. And those guys are hilarious. All right, coming up. She couldn't get inside the lift, and she's suing now. We're going to talk about that, because at what point in time do you say, I need to work on myself? It is the Jen Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7.
1:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. And after 3 interest rate cuts in a row, the Federal Reserve decided today to hold steady. So you're not going to see costs come down for now, maybe all year. Right now, the average 30-year fixed mortgage close to 7%. Credit card rate still at an all-time high, around 20%. And the rate on a new 5-year car loan still around 8%. And right now at the White House.
In a few moments, the Laken-Riley Act will become the very first bill that I proudly sign into law as the 47th President of the United States.
It is named for the Georgia nursing student murdered by an illegal immigrant from Venezuela who had been accused of crimes, arrested, but then let out of jail anyway. It requires law enforcement to notify ICE when illegal immigrants are jailed so they can't be deported. The White House has rescinded its sweeping order that would freeze potentially trillions of dollars in federal assistance, loans, and grants. That's according to a memo signed by acting White House budget director. And here in Tennessee, lawmakers back at work in their special session today. Channel 4 says an illegal immigration bill was amended to make it a crime for elected officials to vote to create a sanctuary city. Meanwhile, people in the country illegally in Nashville are fearful. This woman spoke to Channel 4, says she's been in Nashville illegally for the past 15 years.
This is one of the scariest things that I just have to think about. I have 3 sons, and one of my sons has autism. So I am just trying to figure out what is going to happen if we are going to be separate or they are going to separate from my sons.
ICE arrests have topped at least 4,500 in the first week of President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration, and that is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
You got issues with plumbing? You got issues with HVAC? Not anymore, you don't, thanks to Busy Bee. New year, new comfort. They've got great deals going on now. Winter warm-up specials when it comes to your HVAC. And there's some amazing things. Free air duct cleaning. Purchase of a new complete whole home AC. And they've got this great package. So you buy that. They got, regular little package, medium package, large package. When it comes to air duct cleaning, you buy the medium, they're going to give you the large, right? They're going to upsize you. Would you like large fries with that? Yes, please. So many other things, including free smart home thermostat. So it's a $200 value free. Which is great about that is, like, you're coming home in the summer. You're like, I'd like to make cool my house. Do it right there. That is incredible. And, of course, let's not forget about plumbing as well with Busy Bee, including free automatic whole home shut-off with leak detection with any mainline replacement, whole home water repipe, a $300 credit on the tankless conversion, and so much more right now. Now, you want to become part of the Beehive Club, so this is what I want you to call Busy Bee Plumbing today, heating and cooling, 775-7833. 775-7833, or visit busybeehvac.com. Trump signed the Lincoln Riley doing the ceremony, as you do. Does it have to be a ceremony for everything? Feels a little pomp and circumstancy. I understand why he's doing it. But she was murdered, nursing student, Georgia, horrific. You had several other young people that were killed, Jocelyn and Gary and several others. And, you know, this bill should have been easily passed, and Democrats should have got far more on board, and they didn't. And I'm still fascinated by people who are fine with criminals out and about doing something, and you want to protect them, Democrats, not all of you, because several I've gotten on board and think it's ridiculous as well, but that want to it's an all or nothing kind of thing. Well, if we go with this bill or we do this kind of thing, that's going to give us a freedom to just go in and just take kids and people, and it's so ridiculous. And I'm asking, like, to me, what makes me laugh is you're missing the whole point. You're not reading the room of America. I've never met a group of people that have swung and missed like the media, left-leaning media, as well as many of these Democrats, progressive wackadoos. I'm not talking about the run-of-the-mill Democrat, right? Pro-union, maybe pro-choice, but not insane. I'm not talking about, the kind of old-school Democrats, the Reagan Democrats. I'm talking about people who think, well, if you go and get somebody who's here illegally, and you go and you take them into custody, that's going to be an open door for anybody. And you're like, they're criminals. They should be deported. And I'm not talking, there's conversations that need to happen about what are we going to do with a lot of people that are here that haven't broken the law, and we're not going to kick them out. We don't have the manpower for that or the money, let alone what it will do to our economy, which nobody ever talks about because people don't want to have that conversation. That being said, the fact that you would want to protect somebody who has been, like that guy from Haiti that got 17 convictions and he's still here? What the hell are you doing? Who's that for? But you don't read the room. Keep doing what you're doing. You're going to keep getting what you get. Speaking of interesting, crazy, and wacky, Ken and I were making fun of this earlier. This is a lady who called for a lift. She's a nutritional overachiever. She's a woman of size. She's a bigger girl is what I'm trying to say.
As I'm walking, I see him like making faces or whatever. I'm like, oh man.
She already knew.
I can fit in this car.
Believe me, you can.
Yes, I can.
Believe me. He told her there's not enough room in his car.
The kicker part was when he started to talk about his tires. I feel like that was a slap in the face. That was like my tires, like.
The driver said his tires could not handle her weight.
For every big person you turn down because they can't fit in your car?
Yeah, because they need to order the Uber XL.
You know what? I don't never have to order an Uber XL.
I don't ever have to order an Uber XL. Now, I've seen the video, and she is big. She's a big girl. This isn't one of those things where, like, you could lose 30. It's much bigger than that. But on the other side of it, do I think she could have gotten the car? Yes. Do I think the guy worried that she might have been miserable and then she would have given him a bad rating? And then maybe. But let me ask you. You guys can chime in. Love it when you text. We try to get back to you as fast as possible. Yes, I know. I already said that earlier. She should have had a forklift. At what point do you go, I really need to examine my life? I need to examine my life. At what point do you think this has to be rock bottom? Is there that? Because we live in a world where it's all about truth, right? In their mind. This is my truth. And my truth is you can be fat and super healthy, which we know that's not true. None of that is true. You can't be fat and super healthy. And the other side of it, and I look at this and I think to myself, where is it for you? Like, where does it click in for you that maybe that not only is this not healthy, aesthetically not pleasing as well, but it's becoming an issue with my day-to-day life? Like, does that not click in anywhere? Even Lizzo, right? Because remember how everybody's like, don't ever say anything bad about Lizzo because that's fat-phobic. She's dropped a bunch of weight, and I just want to give her an applause. Well done. Good for you. No matter what you did, whether you took the shot, whether you worked out, she's still a lot of videos working out. I don't care how you did it. Good for you. You made a decision. That's good. This person, though, said no, I'm suing.
He apologized, canceled the ride, and left her there. The rapper says she's pretty tough. Dank DeMoss, as she's known at the mic, is crushed by the whole situation.
I just want them to know, like, it really hurt my feelings.
It looks like Lyft might be hurting pretty soon, too.
I knew it was illegal, and I knew that it was wrong.
Her attorneys, John Marco and Zach Runyon, say weight is a protected characteristic in Michigan by law.
It would be no different than a driver pulling up and saying, you know, I don't want to have black people in my car, or I don't want to have Christians in my car or Muslims in my car. It's the same. Under the law, it's the same.
The lawsuit is filed.
It is filed. And you and I are thinking, what do you mean it's not the same? It isn't. But in Michigan, it is, because you can eat yourself into a minority group where you've got protected rights, which blows my mind. But I do ask, like, at what point do you say to yourself, you know what, I've got issues. I got to start dealing with some of this stuff. Like, is there a point, like, when they have to come to your house and go, we're going to have to take the wall down to get you out? Because that's happened. That guy in Mexico, did you see him? By the way, he got married, which was really weird. But he weighed 1,000 pounds. When they took him out, they had to do it on a flatbed. That's crazy. And then the other side of it is, how does somebody let you get that big? No offense. Like, Bell's in there eating a salad right now because we shame him. But if Bell weighed 500 pounds, I would step up and go, dude, I'm not going to get you food, right? I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to participate in the downfall of you. And I would hope he would say the same thing to me. Chad, you're so big, you've got zip codes. Enough. Right? That's a friend. Like, a friend will look at you and go, dude, you are a fat ass. You need to stop this now. You are gross, and I don't want to be around you. Like, that's what has to happen. But this, just sue, right? Just sue. Robert Kennedy, speaking of somebody who is very fit, but apparently crazy. All right, he's a little bit out there. I'm not going to lie to you. Being grilled today because he wants to be Health and Human Services Secretary. And is he a bit different? We all know he is. Does he have some conspiracies out there? Yes. Are all of them unfounded? No. But that being said, they're coming for him.
So I'm asking you, yes or no, Mr. Kennedy. Did you say that COVID-19 was a genetically engineered bioweapon that targets black and white people but spared Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people?
I didn't say it was deliberately targeted. I just quoted an NIH-funded and NIH published study.
Did you say that it targets black and white people but spared Ashkenazi Jews?
I quoted a study, Your Honor. I quoted an NIH study that showed that
I'll take that as a yes. I have to move on, I have to move on.
I have to move on, man. I have to move on. And that's the gotcha moment that they're looking for. You know what, though? What he is talking about, and it's going to be close with him. I don't know if he's going to get there. And with Tulsi, people are wondering, where's the Tulsi? With what she's doing, because of much of the secretive nature, that happens in a smaller group, and it happens behind closed doors. So you don't get the chaos and craziness there. And I still think it's precarious with her. But I like what he's saying here about transparency.
My approach to administration, HHS, will be radical transparency. If members of this committee or other members of Congress want information, the doors are open. I've spent many years litigating against NIH and its sub-agencies, HHS and its sub-agencies, NIH, CDC, FDA, on FOIA issues, trying to get information that we, the taxpayers, paid for, and oftentimes getting back redacted copies after a year or 2 years of litigation. That should not be the case. And if Congress asks me for information, you will get it immediately.
I love that. I want to know. We all want to know about a lot of these things. And one of the reasons that the conspiracies run rampant and stuff is because there is no transparency. And if you go home to your wife or your husband and you're doing something on the phone and they say, let me see what you're doing, and they say no, you're going to be a little curious. And it may be nothing. Maybe they're getting you an anniversary present or whatever. Who knows? But you're going to be curious. So when they don't tell you the whole story or they redact stuff or you have to do all, you're going to be curious. And when it comes to your body, especially when it comes to health, it is important because putting stuff in your body matters. And remember, the for-profit business, I'm a big fan of. It's huge. Capitalism's great. I don't want to ever export and nation build democracy. I don't want to do it. I can do that with capitalism, though, which is what we should be doing. And part of that is the pharmaceutical world and making drugs. And unfortunately, because we've made it virtually impossible to get stuff passed in any kind of timely manner when it comes to drugs, you've got a situation where they work on things they pretty much sure they can get by, and then they patent chase. They want to make sure they can patent everything and find out what else it's good for. Is it good for ADHD? Let's use it. Let's get a patent for that. Is it good for this? Oh, my goodness. Is it good for that? Let's do it. And that's the frustrating thing. That's when it becomes money. And then, of course, people who work for all of these, CDC, right, the FDA, they all go back and forth between boards and all these kind of things. We want transparency. We do. And I hope if he gets in, because he is a disruptor, he delivers that. And it's still going to be close, I think. Like I say, to me, I've always felt that Tulsi's going to have the toughest road of all of them. Because there's skepticism for sure. And the one thing that's happening that isn't going for her is it's behind closed doors. So you don't have to play the in front of camera game that so many people have to play. Because the in front of camera game very, very often is about the person asking the question rather than the person answering it. Coming up, we got a lot of stuff, a little immigration stuff as well. Trump just signed the Lincoln-Riley Act. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. Man, we still got so much stuff. I got so much, I could barely get through it. It's crazy. I might have to tag out to Matt later, and hopefully he can get through some of the stuff because there's just so much stuff. It's never ending here.
We'll just give Matt the day off. You do another 4 hours.
I've already done 4 hours. That's what I'm trying to tell you earlier. And I still have to go home and do videos and stuff. Make sure you follow me on my socials at Chad Benson Show and the YouTube Chad Benson Show TV as well. This is the Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. Rough Greens, RUFFgreens.com. Use my code CHAD. What is Rough Greens? It is a supplement, powder form that you sprinkle on top of your dog's food, and now with Meow Greens, your cat's food. It has vitamins, minerals, probiotics, omega-3, 6, 9, all of this stuff. It's incredible, and it's great for your dog and your cat. It's going to help them with aches and pains in their joints, right? Maybe they got hips, dog a little longer in the tooth. They got some hip issues. It's going to help with that. Why? Because they got things like spinach in it. They got fruits and vegetables. It's amazing. Top of that for your cat. Maybe your cat's got issues with their coat, right? Losing a lot of hair, got a bad allergies. It's going to help with their skin and their coat and so many other things. They want you to try a Jumpstart trial bag. It is a $20 value. They're going to send it out to you for free. All they ask you to do is cover the cost of shipping, nothing more than that. You can do this by going to Rough Greens. That's RUFFgreens.com. Using my code CHAD. When you don't have to worry about changing anything with their food. Just sprinkle this one scoop right on top of it. They'll love the taste. You'll love what it does for them. Roughgreens.com. Use code CHAD.
Federal Reserve has decided not to change interest rates. President Trump has just signed the Laken-Riley Act. You'll hear from the Georgia nursing student's mother. This is coming up at 2 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
But to me, this was the worst of all. It's a landmark law that we're doing today. It's going to save countless innocent American lives. I want to thank every House Republican, every Senate Republican, as well as the 12 Senate Democrats and the 48 House Democrats who voted to pass this vitally important bill, and many of them are with us today, and I really do appreciate it. And I very much especially appreciate the bipartisan support. The Democrats, really a big percentage of them came through, and plenty of them wanted to. They probably felt they couldn't, but they really wanted to. That they don't understand that would have made them a lot more popular, would have made them a lot better with their people. The ones that didn't are going to be sorry, because the people are not going to forget that they wouldn't sign. This is a perfect, incredible tribute to an unbelievable young lady.
Trump earlier talking about Laken-Riley, and as we were talking about how much the Democrats, especially uber progressive Democrats, have just abandoned common sense. I have friends who are progressive. For those of you guys who don't know, I have friends of all makes and models. I'll let you guys know that. All makes and models. You name it, I've got a friend. And some of my friends, some of my best friends in the world, uber progressive. And they look at something like this and go, well, it's just common sense, right? Like, there's a criminal, they should be turned over. This is not one of those. We shouldn't be having this conversation, especially somebody violent. Somebody who is, I mean, come on. But there is a group of people who think that it's all or nothing. And that goes on both sides. But for this scenario, it is, if we allow you to, once you're in ICE, once you're in custody and ICE can come for you, then that means they can come for anybody. All the time. And that's their logic. And I continue to ask the question, who's that working for? Who's that play well with? Because I don't know. It's like when they start bringing up January 6th on television. I look around and I start laughing because nobody's paying attention. Nobody is. Nobody's going, oh, you're right. No, they're not. They're not paying any attention to that. You are missing out so much. The swings and misses are tremendous, and you still don't get it. That's the thing. You're so tone deaf. Well, if you vote for this, that means you're a Nazi just like Trump. No, it's common sense. Bad people in our country, illegally, or even people that are here as a resident, on asylum, who do horrible things and are in custody, who commit crimes, there needs to be actions taking place. But you get Americans, they commit all kinds of crimes too. Yeah, we don't need to import it. That's ridiculous. Like, it goes back to, who's it for? Have you narrowed your audience down to just yourself? Are you talking in a room by yourself? No one can hear you. And it's just coming back to you, and you're just like soaking it all in. Soaking it all in. Look at me. Ooh, yeah, soaking it all in. A lot of you texting. We talked about Bluey earlier. I got a lot of texts. People are like, nobody's as good a parents as Bluey's parents. Bluey's a cartoon, for those of you who don't know what Bluey is. And I heard that on Ken's report, the lady that's been here 15 years and she doesn't speak English. That's weird, man. You're in a country, you should learn the language because it makes your life that much easier.
If you haven't picked up at least a little bit in 15 years, you're in a really serious bubble.
Yeah, yeah. And there are people out there that are like that. And I'm sorry, you should learn the language. Not trying to be racist, just being honest. You want to become an American? You believe in that? Become an American. Throw yourself into Americana. Part of that's learning the language. Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7.
2 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. The Federal Reserve has decided not to change interest rates. That leaves rates in a range of 4.25% to 4.5%. Here's Elizabeth Schulze in Washington.
Notably, one change in what the Fed releases its statement when it looks at kind of the big picture of the economy is that it says inflation remains somewhat elevated. So a little bit of a nod there to the reality that the Fed is saying our main priority over the past 2.5 years, 3 years, has been bringing inflation down. They say they've made remarkable progress, but some of that progress has stalled a little bit.
Right now, the average 30-year fixed mortgage is close to 7%, credit cards around 20%, and a new 5-year car loan about 8%. President Trump just signed the Laken Riley Act, named for the Georgia nursing student murdered by Jose Ibarra, an illegal immigrant from Venezuela who had been arrested multiple times but then freed before he murdered Riley.
Today's signings bring us one step closer to eradicating the scourge of migrant crime in our communities once and for all.
Laken Riley's mother, Allison Phillips, and her siblings were there.
I want to thank President Trump for the promises he made to us. He said he would secure our borders and that he would never forget about Laken. And he hasn't.
The new law requires federal officials to detain any migrant arrested or charged with a crime. The Trump administration's rescinded the memo calling for a pause on nearly $1 trillion in federal funding and foreign aid, non-governmental nonprofits, and science and education programs. Lawyers for President Trump have filed an appeal of his conviction on 34 felony counts for falsifying business records in that New York hush money case. And here in Nashville, Republicans in the special legislative session in the House have amended the illegal immigration bill to make it a crime for any elected official to vote to create sanctuary cities as part of an effort to support President Trump's crackdown. And 5 years after COVID-19 came crashing in, the effect of the pandemic still being felt in academic test scores. Jim Ryan says that's the finding of a biennial study considered the nation's report card.
Reading scores among most 4th and 8th graders are lower than they were 4 years ago. But if the National Assessment of Educational Progress contains any bright spots, it's in improving math scores in the nation's biggest cities. Results also stood out in Louisiana, where reading scores improved, and Alabama, whose 4th graders are doing better in math.
Here in Tennessee, the Professional Educators of Tennessee says this year's results reveal that Tennessee's 4th and 8th graders have shown improvement, exceeding national averages in reading and math. And in Chattanooga, the man charged for firing shots at a family playing in the snow earlier this month is in court. Benjamin Cook's attorneys say he was not trying to kill anyone, just trying to warn them off of the property, which he claims he owns, arguing he should not be charged with attempted murder. But the judge told Cook's attorneys that he had enough time to think about his decision and did it anyway. Therefore, premeditated attempted murders on the table. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Happy Hump Day, everybody. Man, that report you did earlier, Ken, with that lady who didn't speak good English, any English, it's upset a lot of people.
15 years.
15 years. Now, you know, it's interesting. Some people said, man, in some places of the country, you don't have to. I know in Chinatown, Koreatown, in parts of L.A., San Francisco, New York and stuff, people live there their whole lives. They don't even really leave the neighborhood ever, and they speak no English. They could have been born and raised here. They just never leave an area where it's ever required to learn anything outside of just a little bit, which is fascinating to me. It is. It's fascinating. But if you've come to a country and you're here because you want to be here, you see us as the beacon on the light of the hill, we're the golden goose, we're going to give you all the things, the opportunities, you would think you would throw yourself into it. Like you would think you would just I'm throwing myself into it. I'm going to learn everything about this country. I'm going to learn English upside. I'm going to do it all. My kids are going to learn English. This is what we're going to be about. And for some people, you know why? Because there's so many people out there who bend over backwards to make sure that they don't have to. We don't want to put you out. We don't want to put you out. So we'll change everything. We'll get everything in Spanish. And, you know, you go to the DMV in some parts of the country, California, you have your choice of like, do you speak Laotian, Cambodian, Spanish? And you start going through, you're like, what are we doing? Like, it's crazy. And I love the fact that we're a very diverse nation. But remember, our strength isn't the diversity. It's what binds us together. And part of that is language. Language. Just throwing that out there, language. We'll get back to immigration here in a little bit. But first,
the White House has rescinded its sweeping order that would freeze potentially trillions of dollars in federal assistance, loans, and grants. That's according to a memo obtained by ABC News, signed by the acting White House budget director. The order caused chaos and confusion in Washington and across the country, with lawmakers, federal officials, and state and local governments raising concerns about what the pause would mean for health care, disaster aid, and law enforcement. A federal judge in Washington had issued a stay of the policy through next Monday. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Was always going to happen. What Trump did yesterday was always going to happen. They were always going to have a pause. It was eventually going to get overturned. He's not a king. He's not a dictator. Can't through the swipe of the pen. The power of the purse is with Congress. They're the ones who control the money. It's always been that way, although over the last umpteen years, they've kind of allowed everybody to take what power. They've gave a bunch of it away because they'd rather have the president have decision-making done because you're the president and you will probably face a little less backlash potentially, and we'll let the rest of it decided in the Supreme Court because we don't want to do any of this stuff because we don't want to get in trouble.
My favorite part of the story is just the liberal heads exploding over the fact that he wanted to pause spending.
Yeah, pause spending. And pause spending, by the way, and part of this was, I mean, this was never going to happen because, again, he's constitutionally can't do it. But pause didn't mean never, and it didn't mean it wasn't happening immediately. So the monies that were already allocated were all going to go out. The issue came because everybody's ready to sue Trump all the time. But the issue came because of bad communication. Let's be real, man. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew what group was going to get money. Was SNAP and EBT done? Were they not going to get anything? Was the military not getting paid? Was the Social Security and Medicare, was all of that done? Wasn't it done? So that was also part of the issue, is it was poorly rolled out to people. But the heads exploded, which, again, makes me laugh. I expect that from a group of people who run around and are worried all the time about everything that Trump's going to do because he's a dictator, he's evil, he's all of the things. Stephanie Rule, MSNBC.
Yesterday, a federal judge temporarily prevented the
Oh, that's Mika, sorry. Hi, Mika.
Trump administration from carrying out its plan to pause trillions of dollars in federal loans, grants, and other financial assistance. The judge ruled the courts need
nothing because the judge ruled immediately. Again, it's unconstitutional. This is Stephanie Rule.
And what's really important about the billions and billions of dollars that President Trump is looking to freeze This money was already approved and allocated by Mike Johnson's Congress, weeks and weeks ago.
Right.
So what's interesting is Donald Trump, it's not a surprise that he said, we're going to change things. And lots of people in this country feel like the government spends too much money. We've got to clean things up. Right. Absolutely. But he's had plenty of time and planning to actually do this in some sort of orderly fashion. And instead, we're getting pure chaos.
Pure chaos. And part of that was on them. You didn't explain it. It confused people. People panicked, as you tend to do. And we're not just talking about people that were the news media and the wackadoos out there, but a lot of people panicked because they didn't understand. We have a failure to communicate is what happened. But when you listen to them talk about this, I want you to listen to an issue that so many people have with Trump and have always had when it comes to, because we've always said this throughout the years, we want a business person. I'd like to see a business person run the government. I'd see what that looks like.
Well, sort of
Really
day
hard.
9 of the Trump administration put us deeply in the F around and find out, and that's where we are. Listen, it is not unusual. Let's put it in a business sense, right? For a new CEO to take over a company and say, hold on, let's take a look at where we're spending. Let's evaluate. Let me meet with every department head. But this is not a business, right? I get it. That was the argument Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia, made defending the president. And I get it. Maybe that's how Glenn rolled when he ran Carlisle. This is the United States government.
Okay. Well, we want it to be more businesslike. I want it to be efficient. I want it to be leaner as it can get. Because when we all talk about we need to shrink government, that's never going to happen. Efficiency is what matters. Efficiency. Because you can have a small government and be inefficient. You could have a bigger government and it be efficient. It depends on how everything is used. But the whole thought, we're going to shrink it. I mean, they would like to. They're offering buyouts. So you get 9 months. They sent that out to a bunch of federal workers. So and it's just like one little page. You can accept it. You're going to get your health insurance and any of the benefits you have, like your pension or whatever you would get if you retired or took the buyout at this age in the future. And you'll get 9 months of pay. And all you have to do, and you have to do the 6th of February, is sign the word resign and send it back. And then you'd get a leave and whatnot. And everybody's freaking out about that. And they're hoping that 5 to 10% will take the buyout. And people are like, oh, my God, I can't believe they're going to do this. Do you understand what that would do? Yeah, it would make our workforce a little smaller in government. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a business thing. Trump's big issue with the business side of stuff is Trump has never been it's not a public company. So he doesn't have a boardroom full of people. He's the end all to be all. Where I think it's tough for him and it gets frustrating for him is there's their processes in the government. You're not a dictator. You can't just do one thing and it all happens, which is frustrating for him. But everything's going to be an overreaction. And it's going to continue to be that way. It's going to continue to be hair on fire. But you got to stay the course. There's no doubt about that. And having accountability, we all want that. I want accountability in my government and accountability that is real, right? I want to know what's going on. We want some transparency. If you screw up, if you waste the money, if the money you get, you do absolutely nothing with, the program, whatever it is, that the feds give to the state passes to you and you do nothing with, and we look and we say, oh, my God, you've done nothing, you shouldn't get more. But because everything is continually pumped out, very few people look at any of this stuff, your donors have helped you get in, everybody's kind of fine with, hey, we're just handing out money. And that is a ridiculous way to do business. If government was a business, we'd be out of business. But it's not. Government is government. And when they say we need more revenue, you don't produce anything. You don't even make T-shirts. You don't even have a store on Etsy. Okay? Right? You don't even make jewelry. You take.
No designer handbags.
None. There's no Birkin bags from you. It's none of that stuff. What you do is you spend, and then you can always go to the eternal ATM, which is the American people. And then when push comes to shove and people are saying, no, we want some accountability, we want to see what's going on, you freak out. There should be some accountability in this. And the way that people lost their mind was, well, quite frankly, it was ridiculous. Our good friend, Lonely Scott Jennings.
You know, I have a few thoughts on this. Number one, I assumed when this all happened, it would get sorted out in court. That's obviously process is underway. Not uncommon. Joe Biden had to have a few things sorted out in court, too. Pretty common thing. Number two, I didn't realize we were but 12 hours from full societal collapse after one government decision. I had no idea, but I appreciate the briefing. Number three, I think the American people are appalled at the amount of money that goes out the door every year, and it seems to be on autopilot, and it seems to be without political oversight. And I do think one of the lessons from the election was, can we get a little bit of political oversight over the unelected bureaucracy? And that is what they are attempting to do. Do I ultimately believe a lot of this is going to be walked back? Yes. Do I think members of Congress are going to draw attention to things that are quite necessary and quite useful? Absolutely. Will it take a few days to iron out? More than likely. But I do think there's a little bit of overreaction on the left today because Donald Trump and his people decided to exercise a little bit of political oversight, which I think the American people want.
Well, but they don't really, but what they did, again, you didn't explain it well. Part of life is, and a big part of life, I think we all know, is how many times have you got an email you didn't quite understand, you got a text you didn't understand, somebody gave you a portion of the story, it wasn't explained well, and then it went sideways. That was part of this. That was part of this. And that's why everybody freaked out. And they did. They lost their mind because that's part of it's because of Trump. If this was Obama, if this was Biden, if this would have been, Kamala, they wouldn't have been. So they're like, oh my God, she's only trying to do what's best for the American people. But because it's Trump, it's bad and he's evil. Because it's Trump, automatically it's chaos. And part of that, a little bit of the chaos was a little self-inflicted on that. Although he's vowed to do more of them today. Earlier, he signed the Lincoln-Riley bill, which some Democrats, he even talked about the fact that some Democrats probably wanted to do it but couldn't. Who couldn't do this? Who couldn't sign on to this? Even if you have people that are illegal in your district, A, they're not voting for you in theory, and B, they don't want violent criminals in and around them as well. You know, when they talk about, well, they commit less crime. No, you're missing the point here. The crime that they commit, a vast majority of the time, is crime against people who are in a situation that they're in. They're not supposed to be here. Those people are captured in a sense that they're terrified. They don't want to call the authorities. They don't want to do anything that will bring them onto other people's radar. And so they know that they can do kind of whatever they want. So that is one of the things when I hear people say, well, we should care about these people. Of course, they're human beings. We should care about them. But if you don't want to get them away from people who you say you care about so much, it seems like you care about the person that's committed a ton of crimes. And the Lincoln Riley thing was totally preventable. Doesn't mean you're going to stop everything, but it's all about common sense. And as we know with politics, not a lot of common sense out there. Coming up, there's a worry. Could be coming to the end, guys. We found out earlier today that we're getting closer to the doomsday, to the midnight. Closer and closer. We will talk about that. It is the Chad Benson Show. Super Talk 99.7.
Do not taunt. Happy Fun Ball.
Text the word Benson to Birch Gold. You do that by 989898. So you go 989898 and you put Benson in there. They're going to get you out the ultimate guide to gold in the Trump era. On top of that, they're going to get you out something that's their investor toolkit. And this is really about the protection for you, a hedge against inflation, which is still sitting there, hedge against the weakening dollar, against a market that may go sideways or even down. You want something that can protect yourself, and this is what gold offers you, and Birch is amazing. So you text that Benson to 9898. They get you out this kit. They go, there's no hard sale, none of that stuff. They let you take a look at it. You're going to get this credible book right? The Ultimate Guide to Gold in the Trump Era, forward, done by Don Jr., and you take a look at it. You want to protect yourself. You want to put yourself in that position of a just in case stuff happens, how am I protected? Birch is going to help you with that. They can work with your 401k, your IRA at no cost, no penalty, no fees for a gold-backed IRA 401k. So simple and easy. Text the word Benson right now to 989898 for all the things I talked about with Birch Gold. Wellness Institute of Nashville right now in honor of the 47th president, doing something amazing. 47% off non-surgical spinal decompression in the Big 47 offer of 2025. So they're offering this, and this is about your back. It's about getting right. There's no pills, spinal creams, none of that stuff. It's about taking pressure off your disc and your nerves, and it's non-surgical, which is awesome. Now, if you need surgery, they're going to tell you that. That's a great thing about Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley. They're going to tell you that. But if you're worried about bulging disc, if you're worried about herniation, spinal stenosis, they're there to help you. They're there to get you back up and running and like new. That's what it's all about. So take advantage of this. The Wellness Institute of Nashville. Call 615-246-5009. That's 615-246-5009. Or visit painisbad.com.
All right, drivers, Coffee County, if you're trying to get to Nashville, it is going to take a while. Bridge work has the right lane blocked there at Beech Grove. This is going to be 24 westbound right before exit 97, and it is backed up all the way to Manchester. President Trump has just signed his first bill into law of his second term, and we'll get you the sounds of that coming up at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Guys, there is a clock out there, and time is ticking.
Thank you all for being here today. It is the determination of the Science and Security Board of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists that the world has not made sufficient progress on existential risks threatening all of humanity. We thus move the clock forward. In setting the clock closer to midnight, we send a stark signal. Because the world is already perilously close to the precipice, Any move towards midnight should be taken as an indication of extreme danger and an unmistakable warning. Every second of delay in reversing course increases the probability of global disaster.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
89 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the world has ever been to midnight.
Dun, 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 dun. We're close. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Do you know, did you see how that lady turned her life around? For those of you guys a little.
Yes.
She saw herself on television, and she ain't nobody got time for that. It was talking. And she realized, oh, I got to change my life. And she turned her life around based on that.
Good for her.
Which I think is great. Like, it's fantastic. But it doesn't matter because she did it for all the wrong reasons. Right? She should be now having fun. We have 89 seconds left till the end. The end is nigh.
She was on Tosh.0 a number of times. And I'm the first person to go, look, things aren't as serious as you're trying to make them out to be. But one of the Tosh.0 skits was really racist.
He tended to do that.
He asked her if she wanted anything to drink while they're doing the interview, and she goes, "Yeah, I'll take a Sprite." And he hands her a grape Knee-High.
Oh,
and it was just like, "No, sir."
But that's comedy, right? Like you press the boundaries of something. That's what you do, And Tosh would always tell you, like he goes, "I know where the line is, and I'm going to cross it. How far I cross it is audience based." But yes, he did a lot of stuff. And it's funny because he got away with a lot of stuff that others couldn't do. And it's weird how we do that. It's like with Family Guy. Oh, Family Guy gets away with stuff that is awful. But because it's a cartoon, somehow we think that it's just them and it's magical, that people aren't behind it. Which is, again, fascinating. But it was funny, though, that those guys would say that. We've only got 89 seconds. And I love the fear they have. It's always about climate change. AI is the new one. AI, I might give you a little AI in that one.
What if AI and climate change get together and have a kid?
That might happen. Although I think this is a way for these guys to pick up women. Like, this is it. We only got 89 seconds left till midnight. And I've never felt the love and touch of a good woman.
Let's skip the drinks.
What do you say, doll?
These are the reasons they create those dolls. These are the guys.
Never knew the love of a woman.
Nope, never knew the love of a good woman. She's a bigger gal. She's a bigger gal. People are still chiming in about that lady who's been here for 15 years and doesn't speak any English. You've started something there, Ken. I'll tell you that.
Goodness.
And some people are going, Americans do it. You know what? That's true. It was crazy. When I lived in England and I was playing soccer over there, we'd have guys that would move to what we used to call the continent. They go over to Europe to play soccer. The ones who did well threw themselves into Spain or Italy. They learned the language. They became a part of something. France. The ones who did horrible, they went over there and they tried to be English in a different country, and it didn't work. You got to adapt because it's better for you in so many ways. So many ways. This is the Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7.
$2:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. President Trump has signed his first bill into law of his second term.
Today's signings bring us one step closer to eradicating the scourge of migrant crime in our communities once and for all.
The Lake and Riley Act, passed with some Democratic support, allows federal law enforcement agents to detain illegal immigrants immediately if they're charged with a crime. Doesn't matter what crime either. Lake and Riley was killed by an illegal immigrant, Jose Ibarra, who had a criminal record and arrests, but was let go anyway and is now serving life in prison without parole. President Trump wants illegal immigrants shipped to military prison.
Today, I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
Trump added some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back. The Federal Reserve's decided against another cut in the main interest rate it charges banks. This is Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
Inflation has moved much closer to our 2% longer-run goal, though it remains somewhat elevated. In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged and to continue to reduce our securities holdings.
The Fed's current benchmark rate will stay in the range of 4.2% to 4.5%. And the biennial assessment suggests that the gap between higher performing students and those with lower reading scores is widening. Jim Ryan says it shows 40% of fourth graders and 33% of eighth graders reading below the test basic level. Now, here in Tennessee, the professional educators says this year's results reveal that Tennessee's fourth and eighth graders have shown improvement, exceeding national averages in reading and math. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Rough Greens, ruffgreens.com. Use code CHAD. Get the best thing you can get for your dog and cat. Something that's going to help them with so many things. Aches and pains in their joints. Whether they've got issues with skin and fur, maybe they don't have the energy they used to have. Put this to the test. It is a supplement. It's powder form. You sprinkle 1 scoop on. You don't have to change the food. They're not telling you, go out and buy all this special food. Dog food, cat food, dead food, shelf stable, meant to live there. Brown, not so healthy. Green is. That's where Rough Greens come in. It's not going to cost you anything but shipping. Just a few bucks right there. And you can get it by going to ruffgreens.com using my code CHAD. It's $20 value. You pay for shipping, a few bucks. They send it out to you. You put it to the test. So simple and easy. Your cats and dogs will love it. You're going to love what it does for them, and they're going to love the taste of it. Try a Jumpstart $20 trial bag for free now. Go to ruffgreens.com. Use code CHAD. Ruffgreens.com, code CHAD. We suck at school.
A major source of concern drawn from the National Assessment of Educational Progress is absenteeism. 12% of 8th graders reported missing at least 5 days of school per month, which is lower than it was in 2022, but higher than in 2019.
Well, I wonder what happened. You know they're going to blame it on all
Those
these
are rookie numbers anyway.
Yeah, those are rookie numbers. Those are super rookie numbers. But, you know, dude, they're going through things that we didn't have to go through because, man, you get the phone call home now. I didn't get that. You skip a day, you do something like that. You won't get that phone call home. Very rarely.
Yeah, that just didn't happen.
Now they got that electronic thing that's, your kid is not been in school today.
It's an auto phone call. They don't even need a person.
And that's not good. And then our reading. Duh.
Reading scores among most 4th and 8th graders are lower than they were 4 years ago. But if the National Assessment of Educational Progress contains any bright spots, it's in improving math scores in the nation's biggest cities. Results also stood out in Louisiana, where reading scores improved, and Alabama, whose 4th graders are doing better in math.
Thank God. Some of those places have gone back to the old school. Let's memorize some of these words, okay, guys? Let's do this, right? Let's learn some of these things the old-fashioned way. We're struggling. I mean, it's what's the fix? We need a revamp of education. Right here, we're going to run out of program. Let's see what it looks like. Let's see how it plays. As a father to do kids are getting ready to go to school here next year, it's going to be interesting as we decide if we're going to stay. We're going to homeschool, we're going to go public, we're going to go private, or we're going to do one or the other because I got a 14-year-old. And the 14-year-old, the private school she was going to, she was super ahead of the game, like super ahead of the game in a lot of ways. But she worries, obviously, and a lot of it has to do, you're 14, right? It's new school. But she wants that. And my 6-year-old is just over the moon with anything, but they're homeschooled and they're both pretty damn smart. But I'd like to send them to a public school that's good. I know we're going to have choice. I don't know what that choice looks like. I don't know how that works out. And I don't know who's going to take advantage of it. So the devil's in the details. And as you go through the details, we'll see. Governor Lee, Trump supported. Governor Lee's behind it. This is his big baby. It's not only is the devil in the details, let's see what it looks like when it plays itself out. It's a 3-year program. What does it look like? What they're saying is 65% of kids who are already in private school are going to take advantage of it. How much, there's a certain litmus test when it comes to how much your family can earn, because they want to give people who are, in many cases, in bad schools, bad areas, not big money earners, the opportunity to go elsewhere. But are we going to have fly-by-night charter schools? We are. Are we going to hold them accountable? It's going to be, we need to fix this because education is super important. And let me tell you something. As, everybody's like, well, we don't want the state, we don't want people from California everywhere moving here. You want your state to grow and be healthy. And you want businesses to come here. Businesses don't want to go places, especially big businesses, where education sucks. They don't want to bring their business there. They want education to be good. On top of that, they don't want to go places where education's not great across the board if you're not going to have an educated population. So there's more to it than just, our kids can't read. You got to think in a much longer term scenario. And we got great colleges, right? We're not too far away from Vanderbilt. That is the, that's the Ivy of the SEC. Smarty Pants School. We got a lot of great colleges. But what about elsewhere? And we'll see what this bill looks like. I'd like to think it's going to be a good bill. I'd like to think it's going to be a good plan, and I like to think it's going to work. And the devil's in the details, but also in the implementation of it. Because other states, Arizona, has tried it, several others, and they underestimated it and how many people would use it, and it ended up costing them. And I know there's a top here. And they've also, in some states, overestimated what they thought people were going to do with it, and people didn't take advantage of it. So this is going to be interesting as we move forward, but I think a revamp across the board. Schools in a lot of places, we always want to learn Europe, very she. No, Europe has a good idea in a lot of things. Some of it, not so much. Some of it is. One of the things is they have an apprenticeship programs. YTS, Youth Training Scheme. You get to a certain level, you're like, you know, he's not going to go to college. He doesn't need to, or they call university. That ain't going to happen. But what he is, he's good with his hands. So let's get him an education where he's going to work with his hands, mechanical, whatever it's going to be. Move people towards that. We need to teach to where we're going, not where we're at, which is something we don't do. We need to teach what's the future going to be like. Let's teach to that. But first, we got to get past the point where we can't read and do math. Not well, that's for damn sure. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Some people are not happy about illegal immigration. Some people, dare I say, like Joy Reid, think this is all just a game.
New York City joined the list of cities where these performative raids are taking place.
We have a government right now that is reckless.
Reckless and also, I mean, as I've said, performative. I mean, I want to show you an image of Kristi Noem, who was just confirmed, the former governor who's confirmed as a Department of Homeland Security. I mean, it's as she's cosplaying. It's almost a game where she seems to be cosplaying, because I'm not sure what she thinks that she's portraying here. She might as well be at Comic-Con.
James and Joy say you're reckless and you're just role-playing for fun.
She's dumber than a box of rocks.
How do you really feel? Come on. Tom Holman there. She's dumber than a box of rocks. Well, they're cosplaying. No, they're not. The only thing that changed from a lot of these raids is Trump's president. And because of that, cameras are out there. Because everybody wants to have a story to say that, look, the Nazis are doing something, who, by the way, 3 weeks ago weren't Nazis. They were just out doing their job. Or, look at us, we're doing our job. That's the only thing that's changed. ICE was still out there. ICE was doing stuff. And this thought that they're going to go out and catch, 3, 4, 5 million people, that is fanciful. It's not going to happen. You're going to probably have more people self-deport.
That's what I was going to bring up is like, why would you not be performative when you're trying to get the message out? Look, we're not tolerating this anymore. So this is what's going to happen to you. Watch what we do at this place. And if you don't go home voluntarily and you're a criminal, you're going to jail.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you're spot on. We talked about it, like the Filipinos in California who have stayed their visas, who have, they've come here 10, 15 years ago. They're leaving because of the fear of getting caught and then having a 10-year moratorium trying to get in. But we've got to be honest about how this is going to work out. Because I think that the thought of we're getting rid of everybody, you need to put that out of your mind. It's never going to happen. It isn't. The thought that we're going to make everybody a citizen isn't going to happen. What is the gray area, the happy medium, the reality of how this plays out needs to be talked about. But the performative side of it, everything's a performance, right? Like we're performing. But the way that they're doing things was being done before. They were performing before anybody was paying attention. And it wasn't performing, it was doing their job, which is getting out there. Tom, how do you feel? Please tell me.
She's dumber than a box of rocks. Bottom line is, let's talk about Chicago for a minute. Chicago mayor says that we put fear in the elementary schools because ICE agents went to elementary school. Total false story. What ICE did in Chicago is save children. What we did in New York today is save children. Just Chicago alone, we arrested like 9 sexual predators, most of them child sex predators. We took them off the street. We took them off the street in New York today. We're protecting the community. We're saving children.
Which is a wonderful thing. Can we overdo it and make it seem like everybody? Yeah, come on. And that's also the performative side of things. Everybody's going to paint the picture they want you to think it's the most rosy or the most evil of the other side. But the worst first is what they're doing. And that's what we want. I want them to focus on the worst first. I want them to focus on the people that have been arrested on numerous occasions, the people that are gang members known, the people who are doing bad things. We all want that. That should be primary. One of the people they went after today in New York, wanted for strong arm robbery, I think kidnapping, assault, all in Aurora, Colorado, which, as we all know, was all made up and was a right-wing plant. That's the person you're going after. Those are the people you want. And then we can start to sort out the rest. These are the things that need to be done. It's not hard. It's selling it to the people. Thing about being a president is you're the salesperson to the world, but also to the American people about your ideas. That's like the number one thing I think presidents do. Yes, negotiations, certain things like that. You set an agenda, but you are selling that agenda. It's different now, though, because we have such a fragmented society, a divided society, and a divided and fragmented media. So, people are going to go gather what they want. Where somebody would look at Tom Homan and go, what do you think of that? And he's like, I think they're an idiot. Let me tell you all the great things. Joy Reid and the people out there, in the New York Times and stuff are like, oh, they're just taking off innocent people and they're just wandering down the street and just snatching kids off the street that they think are brown. And that's the way they'll pitch that.
We're going to secure that border so less Americans die of fentanyl deaths. We're securing the border so less women and children are sex trafficked. Biden administration had a 600% increase in sex trafficking. We're securing the border so less terrorists and people on the terrorist watch lists get into the country. Under Biden, we had a 3,500% increase in people on terrorist watch lists. No, we're saving this nation. We're making America safe again. So they need to get out of the way because we're coming. We're going to do it. They're not going to stop us. She's dumber than a box of rocks.
How do you really feel? She's an idiot.
That's one of the wonderful things about Homan, though, is that man will speak his mind unabashedly.
Yeah. And if you think he has no heart, for those of you out there on the left, because I know some of you listening, because you shoot us text, and I'm fine with that. If you think he has no heart, I will tell you this. I joke about he's the scary grandpa, and he is, but watch him talk about the things he has seen, especially when it comes to kids who have died, who have endured sex trafficking as they've tried to navigate and get into our country, going through the world's worst terrain with the world's worst people. Watch and see as he talks about that. He's as honest as it gets. Does he want the border secure? We should all want that. Does he want people to do it legally? Of course he does. Does he want to get as many people out of here as possible? Yes, because part of it isn't just about getting the bad guys out of here, but it's also sending a message for the future as well. And the future needs to be dealt with. But first, you secure the border and you catch the bad guys. That's it. You do those things, those messages will come across. Some people will self-deport. And then, yes, we are going to have a serious conversation, of which we're going to talk about tomorrow as we go inside the actual numbers of what it would like if everybody left, what it would be like if we didn't produce babies. How long would America, be a country? What would it be like when the gray tsunami hits? There's a lot of stuff that needs to be thought out. Unintended consequence. We'll talk about that tomorrow, though. Coming up, Matt, he's here. I saw him wandering around. Talk to him straight ahead. It is the Chad Benson Show. Super Talk 99.7. Ah, Matt Murphy back.
Am I in the right place?
You are.
Hello.
By the way, Cameron and I, we had a nice chat about raccoons yesterday.
Oh, you cheating? Oh, is Cameron cheating on me with the raccoon
Well, I wanted
talk?
to make sure that he knows I have his support. It's solidarity.
You've got. Well, I mean, I appreciate you being on the raccoon train.
Yeah. So we're gonna do it. We're gonna get a raccoon in here.
Or the wild creature train. I wonder if there are people that have raccoon. I'm going to stop wondering this on the radio because it'll get shut down before we get it started. You know what I'm talking about? Like getting a raccoon up here?
Mm-hmm.
Like a trained raccoon up here?
Yeah.
In the studio? In the brand new studio?
Don't worry about that. I got us covered. I got us covered. Not bringing in a skunk.
Like a skunk. I promise that skunk's descended, or maybe not. Who knows? Can't smell worse than radio people.
How you doing, brother?
I am fabulous. Great. Thank you to all the well wishes. I was out yesterday, and I'll talk a little about this on the front end of the show. But little dog Munson is doing great. He's we believe we got all the cancer. They wouldn't let us keep the tumor. It wasn't even an option.
Really?
You know, my mama got to keep her tumor.
What? You own it.
That's what I said.
Well, you paid for it.
He grew it.
Yeah, it's his.
So this is absolutely true story. So when I was growing up, there was a Folgers glass coffee canister that was wrapped in medical tape on the top that had a tumor in it in our medicine cabinet when I was growing up. My mother had a malignant brain tumor when I was 5. She was 28 years old. And in 1978, apparently they were a little more lenient on these things. And the doctors, after the surgery, this is like a week later, they asked her if she wanted to see it. She said she did. She said, I want to take it home. They said, ha, 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 no, you can't do that. She said, I grew it. I want it. And they gave it to her.
Yeah, different times.
Different world. They
now
wouldn't
they
do that
come
now.
in like,
Wouldn't do that
Ebola
now.
suits and they take it out.
Well, about the size of a golf ball and then another little hunk. I took it to school in 5th grade.
As you do.
I mean, that's what you do, right? Mama let me take it to school. Had to pack it up in a big suitcase with and then of course it ended in disaster. Because it got shaken up and now it's all cloudy and
now it's all cloudy.
I know, but I mean, I'm in the 5th grade. I'm like, this is my mama's brain.
Right here.
No, I told them that I had my mama's brain in a jar, and they did not believe me, and so I proved it.
As you do. That's what you do. Like, you know what? That is proof. You had some
Exactly
data
right.
to support.
That's that's the OG receipts right there.
That is the
brain.
receipts as it gets.
Technically, it's a tumor, but whatever.
But part of it was brain.
Oh yeah, there's brain matter.
Oh, totally.
They can't get all the
No, you're not getting everything.
That's
going
right.
to scoop a little bit of it out.
That's exactly right.
What are you talking about?
We're going to go over the immigration melee that's happening in the General Assembly. Or I guess I should say the special session of the General Assembly happening today. Apparently, there were a lot of rabble-rousers that came loaded for bear, and they're very upset about the idea of us enforcing immigration law. I'm fascinated by this. I'm fascinated how fascinated liberals are that people that are here illegally are nervous that they might have to go back home.
Yeah, I find that strange, too. Look, the feds have very few things they're supposed to do. Immigration is the number one thing.
Right.
We shouldn't impede. If they ask for somebody, you should give it. Do I want my cops stopping people? No. I don't think most of us do. Do I want, what are they're talking about Mississippi allowing bounty hunters for that? How's that going to end?
Get rid of that. I mean, what I look at it this way: we have walked ourselves into this situation by either not insisting that our elected officials do enough on it, or just ignoring the issue. And in some cases, the Republican chambers of commerce have allowed this to happen because they like the low wages. So we've walked ourselves into this situation over the last 45 years. We're not going to walk ourselves out of this situation by arresting everyone that's been here for any length of time. But what you can do. And, you can get the top probably 20% in the next 4 months just by enforcing the law. And then we can have a conversation about dealing with the people that have embedded themselves into the country and haven't done anything else wrong.
Yeah, and we need to have that conversation because a lot of people out there think it's all or nothing. And I have news for you, and you know this because you and I chat about this. It's a gray area, and it's an area where we have to address it realistically in a way that some people don't want to hear about. It's a reward. It's just reality. And reality sometimes hits a little bit different for a lot of people. So it sounds like fun, man. I'm going to listen to your show.
We shall have a good time this afternoon.
Sir,
I
you
assure
do that. That right there is Matt Murphy. He's coming up straight ahead. This is the Chad Benson Show. You guys have a great rest of your hump day. Super Talk 99.7.